Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. On this New Year's Eve, we hear from America250 Commission Chair Rosie Rios about special celebrations tonight related to the United States' 250th birthday, which is in 2026. Also, New York City and New Orleans among the cities increasing their New Year's Eve security, and some world leaders put out New Year's messages. Also today, House Republicans schedule a hearing looking at Minnesota social welfare program fraud, inviting both Republican state lawmakers and Democratic Governor Tim Walz to testify. The number of Jeffrey Epstein-related files the Justice Department is working through to release now reportedly topping 5 million. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a Democrat, names a new schools chancellor one day before he takes office. And former U.S. Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, Democrat of Colorado, has died. We'll hear his remarks 20 years ago at the dedication of the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of the American Indian. ABC News writing after midnight strikes, revelers ringing in 2026 at Times Square will get a second treat as red, white, and blue confetti rain down to usher in America's 250th anniversary. The nonpartisan organization America250 is teaming up with One Times Square to kick off the semi-quincentennial celebration in 2026, which will mark 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, along with the special confetti, which will kick off at about 12:04 a.m. Eastern. The iconic Times Square Ball will feature a special design, and the finale will highlight a dynamic pyro display set to a rendition of America the Beautiful by the late Ray Charles. That was from ABC News. C-SPAN spoke this morning with America250 Commission Chair Rosie Rios.
The America250 Commission has a partnership with the One Times Square and the Times Square Alliance. Can you explain what that partnership is about?
Absolutely. So the One Times Square Alliance, which is the owner of the One Times Square building, and the Times Square Alliance are partners in kind of having 3 bites of the New York apple this year. So first of all, I am here in Times Square today. This is the moment that's going to really spark the movement moving forward. And we are here to do a second celebration at 12:04. Where we are going to mark the semi-quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, with several tons of confetti, a great way to, again, kind of bring the patriotism to life in a way that Times Square has never seen before. In addition to that, we are coming back on July 3rd, and out of the almost 120-year history of the Times Square ball drop, this is going to be the first one ever outside of New Year's Eve. We're doing that to bring in July 4th. And then we are coming back again on December 31st of next year, because we have a number of exciting initiatives that will conclude at that time, but also just a great way to hopefully keep the momentum going even long after 2026.
So there'll be another ball drop on July 3rd on midnight?
That's right. The first time ever outside of New Year's Eve. And it's going to be everything that you can imagine and much, much more.
Well, we are going to be covering all of that on C-SPAN. We'll be covering tonight the ball drop. You mentioned 12:04, but you got to see a preview of the 2026 numerals being installed. What was that about?
You know, it was pretty incredible. It's the numerals. It's the crystals on the new ball, the Waterford crystals. It's the technology that's being deployed in a way that's never happened before. But just to take a step back from that, yes, to see the numerals being lit up with 2026. Look, I mean, next month's going to be 8 years that I've been on this commission. So to see it all come to fruition in a way that this commission has envisioned is really, really special. But just the excitement of seeing, there's over 5,000 crystals that are being used as part of this ball. It's over 12 feet in diameter. It's pretty incredible to see and be part of kind of the testing, seeing our logo on the ball, seeing the red, white, and blue twinkling of the stars. It's just really, really magical.
So there is also the official launch of America Gives at midnight. What can you tell us about that?
You know, I would say of all of our movement activities, we have the moment, of course, tonight, and then the movement which is going to be sparked by America Gives. This is my favorite. It really is. America Gives, our national service initiative that makes giving back a year-round effort. We are making 2026 the largest year of volunteer hours ever recorded by our country. And it starts literally at the stroke of midnight, and we're taking it all the way through calendar year 2026. And as I mentioned, we're going to make that grand announcement next December 31st of what that volunteer record number is going to look like. And I can only predict. I'm curious how it's going to all work out, but it's going to be incredible. I think this is not just what our country wants. I think this is what our country needs.
And can you tell us about some of the other activities that America 250 has in store for us this year, this coming year?
Absolutely. So if you go to our website at America250.org, you could already get involved in so many ways. So one, you could go on and learn more about America Gives, as we mentioned. Two, we already have America's Field Trip already underway. This is our third round. It's a national student competition for grades 3 through 12. We get to answer the question, what does America mean to me? Through an essay, through a poem, through artwork. And in exchange, they get to choose from a series of backstage experiences, most of which have never been offered to the public before. So that is live now. It's a great holiday activity for kids who are on their breaks, and the deadline is the end of March. And then we also have Our American Story. You can go online and see and nominate whose story you think should be preserved in perpetuity at the Library of Congress. Again, all of this is on our website at America250.org. That's the movement. But again, as I mentioned, we will have so many more moments beyond what anyone can even dream about.
And C-SPAN is the official media partner, so we will be with you along the way, and we'll be showing that to our audience, all those great activities that you've got planned. Rosie Rios, America 250 Commission Chair, and as mentioned, the website is America250.org. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
An interview on C-SPAN from this morning's Washington Journal, and again, C-SPAN's coverage tonight, New Year's Eve, begins at 6 p.m. Eastern. Live from New York City, and at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll shift to Washington, D.C. for coverage of the Washington Monument for a lighting presentation projecting a visual narrative telling the story of the U.S.'s founding and discovery. And then at 11 p.m. Eastern, back to Times Square for the ball drop and the special ball drop and the confetti. That's tonight on C-SPAN. You can follow it as well on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app. Over 1 million people are expected in New York City's Times Square this New Year's Eve, and New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch spoke about security preparations at a news conference on Tuesday.
New Year's Eve in Times Square is one of the largest and the most complex public safety operations anywhere in the world, and one the NYPD has secured successfully for decades. For the past year, we've been working closely with the Times Square Alliance and our partners across city, state, and federal government. At this time, there are no known specific credible threats to the New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. As always, the men and women of the NYPD will be out there keeping everyone safe. The public should expect to see thousands of NYPD officers deployed throughout Times Square and the surrounding area. That includes officers from our specialized units, including Emergency Service Unit, K-9, the Bomb Squad, heavy weapons teams, and our harbor teams. Our helicopters and our drones will also be deployed during the day to provide comprehensive coverage in real time. We will also deploy dedicated pickpocket teams, hotel response teams, and additional uniformed patrols to address quality of life and public safety concerns. There will be assets that you will see and others that you will not see. The Joint Operations Center will be fully activated with all of our city, state, and federal partners, and personnel there will be actively monitoring fixed and mobile cameras. Intelligence teams will also be monitoring social media for potential threats, and response units will be deployed citywide to investigate any reports in real time. Street closures will begin early tomorrow morning and will expand throughout the day.
New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch at a news conference in the city on Tuesday about the Times Square New Year's Eve security preparations. Joining her, the outgoing mayor of New York, Eric Adams, a Democrat, and he was asked about security technology. He also gets asked about his last day on the job.
You're a technology guy, so what technology the commissioner alluded to some of it. Don't underestimate the power of drones. And this administration, we have really incorporated drones into our public safety apparatus on so many levels. But being able to police on the ground and in the sky is just an amazing contribution. And there's some other technology that, we just don't want to tip our hands, but we're using technology to keep New Yorkers safe, and I think it's going to continue to evolve.
Follow up. You started it all. You started your administration here.
Yes.
How does it feel to be back here?
Great. When I started it 4 years ago, no one knew of this woman named Dorothy Mae Adams that raised the mayor of the city of New York. And being able to hold my mother's picture up so the entire globe can see that mothers across the globe sacrifice so much. And so mommy is not the mayor, but she made a mayor. And so it feels good, full circle. And listen, it has been a blast. I'm looking forward to a single malt scotch and a cigar.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams, a Democrat, at Tuesday's news conference. His term ends at midnight tonight when the mayor-elect, Zohran Mamdani, also a Democrat, will take the oath. NBC News writing that police departments and emergency management agencies across the U.S. boosted New Year's Eve security measures on Wednesday as revelers gathered to ring in 2026. The festivities are shadowed by the anniversary of an ISIS-inspired truck-ramming terror attack in New Orleans on January 1st that killed 15 people and injured scores of others. Wednesday celebrations also come 2 weeks after the Justice Department arrested 4 people linked to an alleged plot to detonate bombs in the Los Angeles area on the last day of the year. New Orleans' downtown area will be patrolled by nearly 800 local, state, and federal law enforcement officers. Public safety administrators told reporters at a security briefing this week. That was from NBC News. The mayor of New Orleans, LaToya Cantrell, a Democrat, spoke at a news conference on Tuesday about security.
You're going to hear from leadership, hear from our public safety leadership relative to how we are prepared. I want to encourage our residents and visitors, again, if you see something, say something, and in the moment, it matters. It saves lives. And again, we've learned from that. For trusted information, always go to, 1, the City of New Orleans, who is the official communicator for our city, but also NOLA Ready, and encouraging all people to sign up for NOLA Ready by texting all one word NOLA Ready to 77295. As I mentioned earlier, we're leveraging all of our law enforcement resources and public safety partners like we always do, but absolutely taking in what we experienced almost 1 year ago. And I believe that we've proven, again, since that time, how we have gone the extra mile to ensure the safety, again, of our residents as well as our visitors.
New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell, a Democrat, had a news conference on Tuesday in New Orleans. Today, U.S. Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, posted a video on the anniversary of the terror attack in that city.
New Year's Day should be a celebration of the year to come. But for 14 families, today is the first anniversary of the worst day of their lives. 1 year ago, a terrorist killed 14 innocent people as they celebrated the New Year on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. It was pure, unadulterated, objective evil. As we remember the horrors of the attack, we also need to remember the heroes who risked their lives to stop the terrorists and rescue those in need. And we remain grateful to the New Orleans Police Department and to all first responders for their unimaginable bravery on that day. So to the families of the victims, I am so sorry for your loss. All of Louisiana is praying for you on this difficult day.
Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, in a video. The world's New Year's celebrations begin at the international date line. The first countries, Kiribati, Samoa, Tonga, soon after New Zealand and Australia. BBC News writes that Sydney, Australia, has welcomed the new year with a message of peace following the Bondi Beach mass shooting, as huge crowds gathered to watch the city's annual fireworks display. The words peace and unity were projected onto the Sydney Harbour Bridge as thousands of heavily armed police officers patrolled the streets, a rare and stark sight in Australia. As part of heightened security measures, the attack on December 14th targeted Australia's Jewish community and killed 15 people at a Hanukkah festival. That was from BBC News. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese spoke about the attack in his New Year's video message.
Happy New Year, Australia. I hope you're counting down to 2026 with family and loved ones. Of course, right now, the joy that we usually feel at the start of a new year is tempered by the sadness of the old. Following the terror inflicted on Jewish Australians at Bondi Beach, our hearts ache for every life lost and every life changed forever. Yet what Bondi also showed us was the best of the Australian spirit in all its courage and compassion. And that is why I'm optimistic and determined that in the new year we will rise to meet the challenges ahead of us in the same way Australians always do, by working together and looking after each other. And no matter what the world throws at us, we will keep doing things our way, stay true to who we are, hold on to everything that makes us the best country on earth. Whether we're here by birth or by choice, we are all proudly Australian, united by our generosity, our resilience, and our abiding sense of fairness. We take pride in the fact our country is enriched both by the world's oldest continuous culture and people of every background and tradition who have enriched our nation with their hard work and their aspiration. In so many ways, our Australian story is such a remarkable one and a beautifully distinctive one. In 2026, we will write the next chapter. We'll do it in a positive way and we'll do it together.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in a video this New Year's Eve. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his New Year's message, is urging world leaders to get the priorities straight, he says, and invest in development, not destruction.
We enter the new year, the world stands at the crossroads. Chaos and uncertainty surround us, division, violence, climate breakdown, and systemic violations of international law. A retreat from the very principles that bind us together as a human family. People everywhere are asking, are leaders even listening? Are they ready to act? As we turn the page on a turbulent year, one fact speaks louder than words. Global military spending has soared to $2.7 trillion, growing by almost 10%. That is 13 times more than all development aid, equivalent to the entire gross domestic product of Africa. All while conflict rages at levels unseen since World War II. On this new year, let's resolve to get our priorities straight. A safer world begins by investing more in fighting poverty and less in fighting war. Peace must prevail. It is clear the world has the resources to lift lives, heal the planet, and secure a future of peace and justice. In 2026, I call on leaders everywhere, get serious, choose people and planet over pain, and I urge everyone who hears this message, play your part. Our future depends on our collective courage to act. This new year, let's rise together for justice, for humanity, for peace.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres in a New Year's video. Euronews writing about it. In September, at the request of UN member states, Guterres launched a report titled The True Cost of Peace, revealing, quote, stark imbalance in global spending. It highlights the trade-offs presented by the increasing costs of militaries, arguing that investing in peace is more important than ever. The report found that reinvesting just 15% of global military spending is more than enough to cover the annual costs of climate change adaptation in developing countries. And less than 4% of the $2.7 trillion is needed annually to end world hunger by 2030, while a little over 10% could fully vaccinate every child in the world. Reporting from Euronews. Some other New Year's addresses today being reported from The Guardian newspaper. China's President Xi Jinping has vowed to reunify China and Taiwan in his annual New Year's Eve speech in Beijing. Speaking the day after the conclusion of intense Chinese military drills around Taiwan, Xi said, "The reunification of our motherland, a trend of the times, is unstoppable." And from Moscow Times, President Vladimir Putin used his traditional New Year's address on Wednesday to project an image of Russians as united behind the country's armed forces and the war in Ukraine, vowing victory on the battlefield as the conflict approaches its fourth year. Putin said, addressing Russian troops on the front lines, "You have taken on the responsibility to fight for your native land, for truth and justice. Millions of people across Russia, I assure you, are with you on this New Year's night. I congratulate all our soldiers and commanders on the coming new year. We believe in you and in our victory." Reporting from the Moscow Times. The United States Charge d'Affaires in Moscow, J. Douglas Dykhouse, posted a video extending New Year's greetings from the U.S. to the Russian people. He speaks a little bit in Russian and does speak in English.
Дорогие друзья, с наступающим Новым годом. As the new year arrives, I extend sincere greetings to you and your families on behalf of the American people. The spirit of this season invites reflection, renewal, and hope. It is a time when people everywhere pause to consider not only where they have been, but where they wish to go. The past years have brought hardship, loss, and division. Yet history reminds us that conflict does not define the future unless we allow it to. The turning of the new year offers a chance to move forward, to seek peace as a mutual responsibility and a mutual benefit. President Donald J. Trump has consistently emphasized the importance of ending the Russia-Ukraine war. His administration has worked diligently to encourage dialogue and action, seeking a path towards peace that respects the sovereignty of nations while prioritizing safety and stability of the region. His efforts have laid the groundwork for continued engagement and negotiations, and his commitment to diplomacy remains a beacon of hope for both our nations. Americans and Russians share deep traditions of resilience, creativity, and love for their homelands. These common threads can serve as a foundation for building a more peaceful future. Желаю здоровья, мира и благополучия в новом году.
A video with J. Douglas Dykhouse, who is the Charge d'Affaires at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky writing on X, "Another year is passing, hard won through dedication and tenacity, through principles and the daily effort of Ukrainians. This year was made possible thanks to our defenders, those who stood their ground not only for Ukraine, but also for all who value freedom and dignity. Together, we move forward with what keeps us going, experience and memory, the word of home, hope, and faith." Washington Today continues in a moment.
This year, C-SPAN brought millions of Americans closer to their government. This is Rachel with C-SPAN. As the year ends, your support continues to matter. If you're able, please consider a year-end tax-deductible gift at cspan.org/donate. Your support keeps democracy unfiltered and accessible, giving everyone direct access to the work of Congress, the White House, and the Supreme Court. C-SPAN is a nonprofit and receives no government funding. Because of listeners like you, we were there this year for critical debates in Congress, major presidential decisions, and historic Supreme Court rulings. You made that possible. Thank you for your support. Every gift makes a difference. Donate today at cspan.org/donate.
Welcome back to Washington Today, available as a podcast on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app and wherever you get your podcasts. The House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, writes CBS News, will hold a hearing next week on alleged fraud in Minnesota public assistance programs. Chairman James Comer announced Wednesday the hearing is set to take place January 7th and will include testimony from Minnesota GOP state lawmakers who have investigated public assistance fraud, Comer said. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison, both Democrats, have also been asked to testify at a second hearing on February 10th, Comer, a Kentucky Republican, said. Reporting from CBS News, Congressman Comer was interviewed on Fox News Channel today previewing the hearings.
Tell us about who you're bringing in, who you want to see on Capitol Hill, and what questions do you want to ask them?
Well, the most important people are the state whistleblowers, the state employees who put that tweet out that we all are familiar with a few weeks ago that alerted America to the massive fraud. These state employees also allege that they had warned both Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison for years that this fraud was occurring, and yet nothing was taking place. So we're going to bring the state employees in. We're going to get their sworn testimony. We appreciate their bravery in coming forward. We're also going to bring in state lawmakers and Minnesota mayors because the walls are caving in on Tim Walz. This massive amount of fraud is affecting and impacting every citizen of Minnesota because they're having to cut services because so much of the money for social programs was wasted and defrauded by this Somali population. So these are the people we're going to bring in. We're going to try to identify who was responsible for this. We're going to try to identify banks that we can subpoena their bank records so we can follow the money to see how much was taken, who took it, and then who do we need to hold accountable, and hopefully we'll have some criminal referrals at the end of the investigation.
Congressman James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, Oversight and Reform Committee Chair, on Fox News Channel today. The Department of Health and Human Services on Tuesday suspended child care payments to Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz, Democrat of Minnesota, writing on X Tuesday and today. This is Trump's long game. We've spent years cracking down on fraudsters. It's a serious issue, but this has been his plan all along. He's politicizing the issue to defund programs that help Minnesotans. While Minnesota has been combating fraud, the president has been letting fraudsters out of jail. Trump's using an issue he doesn't give a damn about as an excuse to hurt working Minnesotans. The post from Governor Tim Walz. President Donald Trump writing on Truth Social today, much of Minnesota fraud, up to 90%, is caused by people that came into our country illegally from Somalia. Congresswoman, in quotes, Omar, an ungrateful loser who only complains and never contributes, is one of the many scammers. Did she really marry her brother? Lowlifes like this can only be a liability to our country's greatness. Send them back from where they came. Somalia, perhaps the worst and most corrupt country on earth. Make America great again. That post from President Trump. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was also on Fox News today talking about a possibility of revoking U.S. citizenship of naturalized Somali Americans convicted of fraud.
House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a congressman from Minnesota, has called for all of the Somalis that are convicted of fraud to have their citizenship revoked. We know so far, according to Pam Bondi, that 98 of the people charged, 85 are of Somali descent. Does President Trump want those Somalis to have their citizenship revoked if convicted of fraud?
Absolutely. And it's something the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State is currently looking at right now. It's something this administration has already done. And we know that there are liberal activist judges across the country who will try to block and tackle this administration from pursuing justice at every turn. But that's not going to stop the president and his entire cabinet by acting on behalf of law-abiding, tax-paying citizens in the state of Minnesota and in states across the country who have been ripped off by people who abused our immigration system, came to our country, do not love our country or respect our values, and now have been ripping off and stealing money from law-abiding Americans. This administration is not going to tolerate it. And again, this is a whole of government effort. We've surged resources. As you pointed out, the Department of Justice has already charged and prosecuted nearly 100 people. In fact, some of the buildings and some of the sites that Nick Shirley exposed in that video are under current investigation by the Department of Justice. One of those sites, the Midway building, resulted in 13 defendants already being charged earlier this year under the leadership of our Attorney General and President Trump. So that is definitely going to continue.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Fox News Channel today. She also said in the interview that other, quote, blue states will be investigated for fraud. She mentioned New York and California. Politico writes the Trump administration is ending its attempt to deploy National Guard troops to Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland. President Donald Trump announced on Wednesday following a loss at the Supreme Court last week. Trump suggested troops could return to cities despite the court's 6-3 ruling that the president's justification for sending National Guard personnel to Chicago was not sufficient. Trump had argued the National Guard would help reduce crime, and the troops have aided in immigration enforcement operations when deployed. The president said in a social media post, "We are removing the National Guard from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland despite the fact that crime has been greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities, and only by that fact. We will come back, perhaps in a much different and stronger form, when crime begins to soar again, only a question of time." The Politico article also says Democratic officials at both the city and state level in all three jurisdictions sharply opposed Trump's move, suing in court to stop the deployments. Lower courts had halted the use of the Guard in several cases. From the New York Times, the Justice Department is seeking to enlist about 400 lawyers to review roughly 5.2 million pages of Epstein files documents, an effort that is drawing in prosecutors who work on national security and criminal cases and in U.S. attorneys' offices in New York and Florida, according to people familiar with the matter. The number of documents represents a more precise and potentially much larger figure than previous estimates provided by the department. Congress required the Justice Department to release its files related to the investigations of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein by December 19th. The department released about 100,000 pages on that date and said in the days that followed that at least 1 million more documents still needed to be reviewed. That was from the New York Times. Congressman Robert Garcia, Democratic California ranking member on the Oversight Committee, was interviewed on MS Now Tuesday night on this issue.
We hear Republicans behind closed doors talk a lot about how frustrated they are with this administration, the lack of accountability that they're able to foist upon the administration kind of doing whatever they want. And when it comes to these Epstein files and the law that was passed and signed by Donald Trump, they have flouted the law completely. Are Republicans actually serious about this inherent contempt? We've heard Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie saying there are some Republicans that are interested. Are they actually interested in that?
I actually think there is a shift that has happened in the Republican Congress. I think that the Epstein files bipartisan vote was a big part of that. I mean, obviously, we've seen and heard some of the comments from Marjorie Taylor Greene and others in the last few weeks. But there has been a shift. I think that people in the Republican conference see that Donald Trump is weakened. They see that he's clearly hiding something. I'm not sure how any American, regardless of party, and that includes those in Congress, can look at the actions of the president, look at the actions of the DOJ, and not make the clear assumption or just the clear fact that's being laid out for us that there is a massive cover-up going on. And covering up for who? We now know that this is likely, possibly, Donald Trump's friends, his billionaire buddies, folks that he knew from New York and Palm Beach. What else is Donald Trump hiding? What information is he hiding? What was the relationship between the president and Jeffrey Epstein? And these are questions that not only I have and the oversight Democrats, but like you just said, Republicans have as well. And so when we get back to Congress here in this next week, we're going to find out really quick if Republicans are serious about actually putting away and taking on pedophiles and some of the worst people and traffickers in modern history, or if they're going to bend the knee to Donald Trump.
Congressman Robert Garcia, Democrat from California, ranking member on the Oversight Committee on MS Now on Tuesday night. The question coming from Eugene Daniels. AP writes that President Donald Trump issued the first vetoes of his second term on Tuesday, rejecting 2 low-profile bipartisan bills, a move that had the effect of punishing backers who had opposed the president's positions on other issues. Trump vetoed drinking water pipeline legislation from Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado, a longtime ally, who broke with the president in November to release files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. He also vetoed legislation that would have given the Muscogee tribe of Indians of Florida more control of some of its tribal lands. The tribe was among groups suing the administration over an immigration detention center in the Everglades known as Alligator Alcatraz. Trump appeared to acknowledge the tribe's opposition to the detention facility in a letter to Congress explaining the veto. He wrote, "The Muscogee tribe has actively sought to obstruct reasonable immigration policies that the American people decisively voted for when I was elected." That was reporting from AP. Some reaction from Colorado Senator Michael Bennet and Senator John Hickenlooper, both Democrats. They put out a statement, "Nothing says make America great again like denying 50,000 rural Coloradans access to clean, affordable drinking water." And from Congresswoman Boebert of Colorado, she wrote, "If this administration wants to make its legacy blocking projects that deliver water to rural Americans, that's on them." The Queens Chronicle newspaper in New York City writing that Kamar Samuels, a veteran education leader and the superintendent of Manhattan's District 3, has been appointed to lead the city's public school system under Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Samuels has nearly 2 decades of experience as an educator in New York City schools. The mayor-elect Mamdani introduced this appointment today at a news conference.
Tomorrow, I will swear an oath and become the mayor of New York City. A new future feels very near indeed. But for too many New Yorkers who come into daily contact with our public school system, be it parents, children, educators alike, the future is not something that they often look towards with hope and optimism. When many parents think of the future, they think of literacy rates that, while improving, still show that nearly 45% of children in grades 3 through 8 are not reading proficiently. They think, too, of a public school system that ranks among the most segregated in our nation, where children from different backgrounds do not learn alongside one another, and too many children don't receive the same opportunities. For over 900,000 children learning in our public schools, when they think of the future, they think of classrooms so crowded that they cannot get the attention of their teacher and facilities that have long needed improvement. And for educators, when they think of the future, they think of how many of their students don't have a home to return to at the end of the day or a bed to lay their head in. How hard it is to afford a dignified life in this city on a teacher's salary, and how many of their colleagues have had to move on to another job. The future need not be something that we dread. It can be something we rewrite together so that the children of our city, the future of our city, receive opportunities far greater than those who came before them. I am proud today to appoint Kamar Samuels as New York's next schools chancellor, because this moment demands a new generation of leadership that both understands our school system and has a transformative vision on how to remake it. Kamar is that leader. He has deep experience serving at every level of our public school system across our city. He began as a teacher in the classroom in the Bronx before becoming a principal, and has since served as a deputy superintendent of School District 23 in Brooklyn and superintendent of both District 3 in Manhattan and District 13 in Brooklyn. More impressive, however, than his resume are the results he has achieved in these roles, delivering millions of dollars to integrate city schools and transitioning to new curricula that increased literacy rates by 5% in a single year. I chose Kamar for this impactful role, one which shapes the lives of nearly 1 million children each year, oversees more students than any other chancellor in the nation, and manages over 135,000 employees, because of his expansive vision of possibility for the future, and because he will lead with 2 qualities too rare in public service: transparency and accountability. They are the same qualities I seek to lead with from City Hall.
New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a Democrat, at a news conference today in the city, a day before he takes office. He also said that although he campaigned on ending mayoral control of the schools, he will for now continue that with reforms to incorporate the input of parents, students, and teachers. He said, though I have held concerns about mayoral control, parents need to know where the buck stops with me. Mayor-elect also named some other members of his cabinet today: Deputy Mayor for Operations, Office of Child Care Executive Director, Buildings Commissioner, and Chief Climate Officer. The Des Moines Register in Iowa writes that Democrat Renee Hardman made history after winning the Iowa Senate District 16 seat to become Iowa's first black female senator, defeating Republican Lucas Lofton in a December 30th special election to hold off a GOP supermajority. Hardman earned 71.4% of the vote, according to unofficial results from the Iowa Secretary of State, to represent the district that includes parts of West Des Moines, Clive, and Windsor Heights, continuing a string of special election wins that have buoyed Iowa Democrats heading into the 2024 2026 midterm elections. That was from the Des Moines Register. Renee Hardman spoke Tuesday night at her victory party.
My heart is so full of so much gratitude tonight. And I thank God for this journey that He placed me on. Amen. Our community made their voices heard tonight. You showed up. You braved the weather. You ignored the noise and the nonsense. And you showed up in West Des Moines, in Windsor Heights, and Clive. Because we believe in more opportunity, better public schools, a stronger economy, and a place where all Iowans can thrive. I am deeply humbled and am grateful, and I am ready to work as your next senator.
Renee Hardman Tuesday night in West Des Moines, Iowa, after her victory in that Iowa Senate special election, filling a seat that had been vacant since the death of the previous senator in October, who was also a Democrat. Wall Street today, the Dow down 303, NASDAQ down 177, S&P down 50. But for the year, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 13%, the NASDAQ up 20%, and the S&P up 16%. Bloomberg writing that applications for U.S. unemployment benefits fell last week to one of the lowest levels this year, accentuating volatility in the data during the holiday season. Initial claims decreased by 16,000 to 199,000 in the week ending December 27th, according to Labor Department data released Wednesday. Story from the Hill. Former Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, Republican of Colorado, a longtime advocate for Native Americans and organized labor who switched parties late in his career, died Tuesday. He was 92. His daughter, Shannon Campbell, told the Colorado Sun her father died of natural causes. Campbell served in the Colorado House of Representatives from 1983 to 86 before serving 3 terms in the House in Washington. He was elected to the Senate in 1992, becoming the only Native American to serve in the chamber during his 2 terms. Before he left the Senate at the end of his 2nd term in 2005, Campbell became the first Native American chair of the Committee on Indian Affairs. That was from The Hill. In late 2004, just before he left office, he spoke at the dedication of the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of the American Indian. This from C-SPAN's video library.
Their supreme gift to the world, in my view, even surpasses the treasures you will see in this beautiful building we are opening today. It was a unique system of self-governance never before tried in the monarchies of Europe or Asia, and it is called democracy. It was a system copied from the council fires of the Iroquois Confederacy by Benjamin Franklin and penned for a new fledgling United States of America. It is still used by this nation in Congress and is copied in part by almost every new emerging democracy in the world. This system was best described by President Abraham Lincoln as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And last, we open this monument to all the dreamers who helped make this day come true. As I leave public office in a few short months, I am reminded of the stanzas from the Navajo chant of the Beauty Way. The Navajo people sing, "In the house of long life, there I wander. In the house of happiness, there I wander. Beauty is before me, beauty is behind me. Beauty is above me and beauty is below me. Beauty is all around me, with it I wander. In old age traveling, with it I wander. On the beautiful trail am I, with it I wander." And thanks to the efforts of all those assembled today and so many more, we celebrate the opening of this house of happiness, this house of long life, and walk the trail of beauty. And to all of our Native American friends in attendance, I say to them, the sacred hoop has been restored. The circle is complete, and the Hopi prophecy told to me 40 years ago by Thomas Binyaka, spiritual leader of the Hopi Nation, about the reemergence of the red people of the land after going through decades of poverty and despair, that reemergence of the native people has come true.
Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, Democrat from Colorado, in 2004 at the opening of the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C., that from C-SPAN's video library. He has died at the age of 92. Some tributes coming in from both Republicans and Democrats. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, Republican of Colorado, posting, Colorado lost a true legend in former Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, a proud Northern Cheyenne Olympian, veteran, and trailblazing leader who championed our great state. He and his beloved wife, Linda, were pioneers for Colorado and built a legacy of strength, service, and innovation that will inspire generations to come. That reference to the Olympian, Ben Nighthorse Campbell, was on the U.S.'s first judo team, the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. Also, Associated Press writing that former Republican U.S. Senator John Kyle of Arizona on Tuesday announced his withdrawal from public life following a dementia diagnosis. Kyle, 83, represented Arizona in both chambers of Congress for nearly 3 decades. Most of those years were in the Senate, including a term as minority whip. He said in a statement, "My family and I now head down a path filled with moments of joy and increasing difficulties. I am grateful beyond expression for their love and support in these coming days as in all the days of my life. Despite this diagnosis, I remain a very fortunate man." Reporting from AP. Thanks for listening to Washington Today. Before we go, remember the C-SPAN network's now available on Hulu Plus Live TV. You can learn more on how to get C-SPAN, C-SPAN 2, and C-SPAN 3 at hulu.com/live TV. And also to get the latest on what's going on in Washington, sign up for C-SPAN's evening newsletter word for word at cspan.org. Have a good night and Happy New Year. Washington Today will be off on New Year's Day. We'll be back Friday, January 2nd, 2026, 5 p.m. Eastern.